Love bears all things, love endures all things. Good morning, welcome to Radio Maria Ireland. Thank you so much for your company here for a morning Chatechesis 11:15 here. This Tuesday morning, the 7th of September, the vigil of the 8th, of course, the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and a date indeed to be remembered for all those involved in the Legion of Mary as the centenary date of the founding of the Legion in 1921 by Frank Duff and 15 young women there gathered around a statue of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception, launching what is today and what became certainly a vast lay apostolic organization of millions strong by way of active working members attending weekly meetings and praying members who promise and undertake to pray the Legion of Mary prayers every day. And if you listen regularly to Radio Maria Ireland, if you're one of those who join in the 5:30 Rosary every day, you'll notice that we do add in the Legion of Mary prayers on the Tessera, which is the Legion prayer card. I'll show it to those who are watching on the camera here now as well. So shout out to everybody on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for your company today. There's the Tessera that we use, the Legion of Mary prayer card, with its various prayers on it. So these are the prayers that we include every day here at 5:30 on Radio Maria. So it's good to realise indeed that as you're praying those with us, you are very much part of the Legion of Mary, if not at least implicitly, if not explicitly. And we'd love to hear from you. If it's something you would like to consider joining, we have our Radio Maria Presidium here. Queen of Radio Maria is the title we've given to it. And we would love to hear from you if that's the case. Thanks, Noria, looking after my camera there in the background. Do please get in touch with us, 089467200. That's the WhatsApp and text number there. Or email info@radiomaria.ie. We'll gladly add your name in as one of our praying members or auxiliary members if it is that you're able to join us for the 5:30 Rosary each day. Or maybe you pray another Rosary with us or a Rosary yourself and add in the Tester prayers. And if you're not already signed up as an auxiliary member, I will gladly take your name here and add it to our register of auxiliaries. And my hope, at any rate, is that even if your name isn't listed in our little book, every presidium, every little group of the Legion of Mary has such a list of auxiliary members that they seek to encourage and maintain in the way of prayer. Because it's not everybody who has the time or the capacity to become a full-time active weekly attending member, attending that is the weekly meeting and engaging the 2 hours of apostolic work each week. That may not be possible for some, and so you can become an auxiliary member of the Legion, meaning like the image Frank Duff uses in the Legion handbook, like the munitions workers during the war, let's say. So those at the front line, again we have the idea of frontline workers, but those at the front military line need a supply chain behind them by way of the provision of armaments and munitions and supplies and so on. And if that gets cut off, it's one way of defeating the enemy. So you then, as praying members of the Legion of Mary and praying associates here with Radio Maria, we should probably have an auxiliary role for praying members on Radio Maria. It would just be too big to maintain. But nonetheless, it's something we seek to do in an effort to try to have your name before us, that we keep in touch in some way, as we do on Radio Maria. Anyways, you can see very close similarities. So as a praying member then, a munition worker, and our lovely prayer on the Legion Tessera, our prayer card. Tessera means a token or like a identity card that we would reassemble without the loss of anyone in the kingdom of God's love and glory. So it's a most extraordinary apostolic movement and organization. I could talk for hours really about the Legion and its influence, but I'd love to hear from you as we celebrate our centenary. There's a number of special moments. You'll be hearing maybe too much of me a little bit later on, of various recordings on the Legion that have appeared here and there. Our Behold Your Mother conference, Shalom World TV did a fabulous video documentary a couple of years ago that I featured in as well. And Aidan's bicycle. So if you want to Glorious Lives, it's called. It's on the Servant of God, Frank Duff. You'll see me riding Aidan's bike. It was a prop introduced to the video at short notice. And later on, let's see. Oh yes, some of the work I did on, it's a YouTube video going back, must be 15 or 16 years or more, 16 or 17 years, a younger version of me. But Aidan has that schedule there to play that back later on as well. That is the biographical information in relation to Frank Duff as well. But our Legion special will be a live show this evening at 6:10. All things Legion, myself and Mary Stenson will come to the microphone together and chat through indeed the great blessings and gift of the Legion of Mary today on its centenary. And that'll be in around the same time that the very meeting took place in Myra House in Francis Street, which, as Father John Harris said at the centenary celebration last Friday, you might have heard him, he said the most significant meeting to take place in Ireland in the last 100 years. That's no small estimation there, because it's true. Whatever about any other very important meeting that would have taken place, this one, and from it sprang a heroic sort of flood stream of apostolic grace, akin and not altogether unlike that of the Acts of the Apostles. The Legion is a most extraordinary organisation for undertaking and participating in all kinds and every kind of apostolic endeavour, no matter how meek or humble or how brave or extraordinary. It really is an extraordinary movement. And note to self, if you don't mind, I'll write it down while I'm here, because I wanted to get in touch with Father Bernardo DiNardo. Father Bernardo, as I mentioned last week, was a layman, qualified lawyer, who not that long ago, probably, again 10 or 15 years ago, because I met Bernardo here as a layman when I was working full-time on Frank Duff's cause between the years 2003 and 2006. And Bernardo came to Dublin and then went off on his missionary journey as an envoy, like Edel Quinn, like Alfie Lam, to Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Nepal, and ending up in Armenia, and later then ordained a priest of the Armenian Rite. And he has the most extraordinary story to tell of his own Legion journey. And it's true indeed of many, many priests and religious who have found their vocation through the Legion of Mary, and many good, holy, Catholic, solid families, likewise, couples who met through the Legion of Mary and whose lives have borne tremendous fruit. And I know any number of them, and it's a great blessing to know them, because these are vocations invariably that endure, and that invariably are seated and situated in a life of deep faith and prayer and self-sacrificing love. Those who are willing to give of themselves so generously through their Legion membership, very often in small ways there, but then go on to be able to give themselves more fully in greater ways, to whom, what's the expression I'm looking for? That when you give even a little, like the loaves and the fish that the boy gave to Jesus in Capernaum, will it end up being just multiplied far beyond anything he could have dreamed of, with a huge quantity left over. So that's the expression I was thinking of, that those who can be trusted in small things can be trusted in great. And that's so true, that Legion membership, it's very simple. It's a weekly meeting of an hour and a half, no more, where the rosary is prayed, minutes are kept, and the bulk of the meeting then is listening back to the reports of the various members and the work activity they do. The priest spiritual director, like the radio here, like this moment in the day, gives a little allocutio, a little team talk, a pep talk, like the general in an army before it heads out into battle. In the Roman Legion, the same idea. You see this depicted in epic form in movies. Gladiator comes to mind. General Maximus rousing the troops, and it's a common thing in these epic movies. So the Legion has, well, the priest has a very, not the same dramatic moment, but the same idea of the head and the members, and the head encouraging the members. And then sending them out. The Legion obligation then each week is 2 hours of active apostolic work, usually and more often than not in pairs. Always recommended to go in pairs. Why? Because that's what the Lord did himself, and because it safeguards against indiscretion or against reticence to actually do the work. If you're assigned to go on home-to-home visitation, I will guarantee there will always be a reluctance to head out. But as you come back, those sowing in tears come back rejoicing. It's extraordinary the graces that accompany this work. And I think the reticence or reluctance that accompanies that idea, the fear of going, fear into the unknown, is Frank Duff writes about this at great length, is that kind of artificial idea in the mind of what will people say, what if I get a negative reaction, why am I doing this anyway? And a lot of these are kind of classic temptations, I would say. The devil would kind of want us to hold back. That's why it's not a good idea to do this kind of work on one's own, always with somebody else. And it would always be, a less experienced legionary with maybe a more experienced legionary would be the idea too. That it's what Frank Duff again describes as the master and apprentice system of formation that you learn by doing, and then you learn with those who have done before. Again, master and apprentice. And you figure it out as you go along. And I've seen time and time and time again those who think they're just not able for this. Who am I to be taking this kind of work on? And they go from being quite shy and reserved and hardly able to open their mouths to standing up in front of a group of people at the Legion gatherings and presenting their case and telling their story and talking about their work, to becoming an unstoppable force after a while and taking on roles of leadership. I've seen it myself again, my own experience with juniors and junior presidia of the Legion, younger members, how even a short time as a member of the Legion does the young person tremendous good, because they learn the simple skills and discipline of punctuality, of attending a meeting, having the structure and the order of a meeting, the idea of a president, a vice president, treasurer and secretary and spiritual director, 5 officers there. And invariably, again, in any presidium, all the members would probably get a turn at one or other officership as they go along. And again, those who would start out with nothing, so to speak, very little in the way of any organizational experience or seeming faculty for these things, once they're put into the position, it does their confidence no end of good. You appoint somebody as an officer, as a treasurer, say, you show them how to keep the book, it's so simple, or as a secretary, and you explain how they keep the minutes. And it's extraordinary how people will rise to the challenge. You pull people up a little bit upwards and onwards and forwards in their faith life. And as I was mentioning earlier on, how all of that then feeds into the sanctification of the member, in the doing of the ordinary, small, simple tasks of attending to the meeting, attending at the meeting, praying, giving an audible and adequate report on the work done by way of a notebook that would be kept. All of these things there's tremendous discipline in that, and a little skill set that's built up and enhanced. And through that then the members would learn how to express themselves, how to communicate so much better, and then how to defend the faith bit by bit. Because if you do any kind of contact of people, whether it's on the street contact is a favourite of the Legion of Mary, door to door again is another favourite, and again always a very gentle, cap in hand approach, a humble approach as an inferior to a superior. But then in the conversations that inevitably arise, challenging questions will ensue or follow. And often enough, we have to try and answer them somewhat inadequately based on the limited knowledge we might have. Or if there's a more experienced legionary then, and someone more experienced than we are, we'll learn enormously from like how would they go about answering this, and we hear it and we listen to them answering, and we see there is an answer to that question. There is an approach, and what comes over maybe not so much, again, another Frank Duff idea. Again, all of this is in the Legion of Mary handbook, extraordinary book that it is, a real gem of spiritual instruction and formation, Legion of Mary handbook. But what we would learn as we go forward is not so much the knowledge to refute arguments, because Frank Duff says, win an argument, lose a soul. So our contact, and that's a word often used in the handbook, the contacts we make, those meeting people. Pope Francis would say encounter. So our encounters with people, what comes across maybe more often than not is simply our sincerity and our conviction in our faith. Not that we have all the answers, because nobody does anyway, but that we believe sincerely and we make of ourselves credible witnesses to the faith by what we say and what we do, the deference we show, the care and consideration we communicate, maybe the joy that is ours, and that you can't bottle that up if it's there within you. If there's a sense of joy and vivacity, and that the faith clearly is bringing you blessings, then you can't bottle it up, you can't mask it, that has to overflow into the context that we make. And we seek to make friends with people in that way, in a spiritual way. And because we do so, we're showing a care and concern for them that the world is not interested in, that the world of marketing, say, or business, or any of these other things, they always want a piece of us, whether it's our money or our investment in some way. They're not particularly interested in us as human beings necessarily, or in our eternal salvation or our health spiritually. There's always some profit or some other worldly motivation at work when it comes to worldly things. But at the level of the Spirit, we approach again as the inferior to the superior, and with great care and concern for a person's eternal welfare and salvation. Not that we come preaching at them or to them or down at, none of those things, because again, that's fruitless. That's the same idea as winning an argument and losing a soul, because anyone who senses that idea that we're coming, as it were, to, I have the answer, I have the way, not the case. And even St. Paul in his letters, you'll notice his letter to the Colossians once again, drawing people to Christ. This is our task. And our model then, of course, is our Blessed Lady. Our model to communicate the message of Christ, to help others to do whatever he tells us to do. And that's again the gospel model right there. He calls and he names the apostles, sends them out ahead of him in pairs to the towns and villages he himself was to visit, and they come back rejoicing. Even the devils submit to us in your name. Excuse me, I'll take a quick drink here. The hiccups will come. I don't know about you, when I get hiccups, they assault me. Not good on the radio. Don't rejoice that the devils submit to you in my name. Rejoice rather that your names are written in heaven. Again, this would be a principle there within the Legion of Mary, that our apostolic work is not for any self-glorification. It's not that statues or anything like that will be erected in our honour, nothing of the sort. Rather that our souls are written in heaven. So again, our sanctification, our growth in the holiness. And in the giving, it's extraordinary. Ask any Legion member, ask anyone, auxiliary or active legionary, and you will find, and again, like anyone else too, again, I'm sort of, I don't want to overlay or overburden the Legion of Mary as the be-all and the end-all. There's loads and loads and loads of other wonderful charisms and great movements and organisations in the Church. The Legion just happens to be, as far as I know, the biggest, by far in terms of membership and geographic influence and so on. I'm open to correction. But just that the system works, the method works. It's a tried and tested and proven true means of animating people in apostolic life. And many indeed flow from the Legion of Mary into other movements and apostolic organizations, including religious orders, as I say, and vice versa, but that model then of going out, the reward that comes from that and the blessings that come from that are extraordinary. So ask any legionary, ask anyone who's been involved in that work, and see that a full measure has not already been returned, pressed down, shaken together, poured into our hearts. I like the little idea in the Legion too, where we address each other as brother and sister. And Frank has that in the handbook too. The handbook is a marvelous document, as I say. It explicates all of these little nuances of the Legion. And worth noting that it wasn't premeditated in any way. It's quite spontaneous. And the handbook simply arose out of what became practice. So it was a good 7 years before the first little mini handbook was written. And Frank Duff wrote it and rewrote it and redrafted it for the next 60 years. And so the present-day handbook has had some new additions, like the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the Revised Code of Canon Law, and other small sections attended to and amended. It's amended, I think, every 5 years. It goes through another revision. But it is still in bulk, really. It is Frank Duff's authorship. So this is well worked out and well reasoned out, and it comes from the experiences that the Legion began to have, and what worked and what failed, and what must be, what's essential to the apostolic life. So that full measure certainly comes back to legionaries. They receive so much more than they give. And as I say, those who have joined over the years have gone from being maybe very shy or reticent or very, considering themselves of little worth, to becoming huge apostolic missionaries in their own right. And some of those legionaries who are deeply involved, no bother to them at all, to go out evangelizing. There'd be some priests who'd be hard pushed to meet the kind of standard that they set. I'm thinking there too, particularly of peregrinatio pro Christo, meaning journeying for Christ. Every year, now probably not the last 2 years of COVID, but teams of legionaries would go to another country to evangelize for a week or a fortnight, visiting door to door. I've done several of those projects myself. But when they come back and they have what they call the Halloween conference, the autumn conference, bringing those teams together back, it is just jaw-dropping to hear the reports. It really is acts of the apostles' stuff attending that peregrinatio conference every year. This is the most extraordinary missionary work. And it's the beauty of it is just lay people. Again, it's not any high organized apostolic mission on behalf of the church or any religious organization. It's just, again, ordinary good people from down the road or up the street who take a week, take 2 weeks, and they head off and they come back with most extraordinary stories. And maybe it is partly for the simplicity of that approach, and again the simplicity of the members, that it enjoys such success. That's the Marian element. Again, it's a gentle and maternal approach that doesn't seek to dictate in any way. Always very invitational. And I've had my share of extraordinary experiences too. So now listen, I'd love to hear from you. It's a day given over to the Legion centenary. I'll share with you a bit of Frank Duff's spirituality and his what he's written for us in the handbook for members of the Legion in relation to the Holy Eucharist, especially in the light of the Eucharistic Congress continuing and has just started in Hungary. And we know what that's all about. We've had it twice here in Ireland back in 2012. It was a great blessing of the Eucharistic Congress here. So just in the light of that, I'll share a little bit from the Legion of Mary handbook, just to dovetail the two together. I have a little piece of music in mind for you, Totus Tuus, because Totus Tuus, of course, is the theme of the Legion of Mary. I'm all yours, my queen, and my mother. All that I have is yours. drawn from the writings and spirituality of St. Louis Marie de Montfort, whose True Devotion to Mary, that wonderful book, is what was the spark in the heart of Frank Duff and in the heart of these good women who joined with him. They were sharing this great devotion, and from it then sparked this idea of gathering together in an apostolic group. And so they did, and this became the defining spirituality of the Legion of Mary. I'm all yours, my queen, my mother, and all that I have is yours. So totus tuus indeed. I have a little version of it that I'll sing a bit later on. I told Mary Stenson I'd get out the guitar and sing it for you this evening, which is it's a nice little Legion of Mary story behind that totus tuus as well, which I'll share with you. So now please do get in touch. Drop a like, a share, a comment, anything you like here on Facebook and YouTube. Even later on, if you're listening back or watching back, no bother. Drop it in there for us right here. And do please text us on 08946720000 or WhatsApp as well, +35389467200. Do write to us if you wish. St. Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. And you can call us up, Mary's, on the phone downstairs, 014 123456 +35314 123456. You may well have some lovely Legion experience or Legion tale or Legion encounter. Maybe they've come to visit you on your door. And tell us about that. We'd love to hear. And going forward right through the centenary year, we'd love to hear. At this stage, we'll certainly seek to get as many Legionnaires as we can to join us here on the radio at the microphone. So please do share your story with us. So now we'll put Dana on for you. Little pause and totus tuus, all yours.
As I stand on the ground where you stood, and I walk in your footsteps, I imagine the way that you felt and the thoughts you were thinking. Could you see my face in the crowd, and that I loved you? Totus tuus, totally yours. Totus tuus, totally yours. The rock and the lamb, the Lord and the man. Totus tuus, totally yours. You told us that people must be free, every heart must be open. You said that justice is the key, but it takes our love to turn it. You said that you believed in me. You said you loved me. Totus tuus, totally yours. Totus tuus, totally yours. The rock and the lamb, the Lord and the man. Totus tuus, totally yours. And we will follow you. Yes, we will follow you wherever you lead, for we believe your message is true. And we will follow you. Yes, we will follow you wherever you lead, for we believe your message is true. Totus
30 seconds, Father.
Wherever you lead, for we believe your message is true. Wherever you lead, for we believe your message is
There we are, lovely piece of music there, very uplifting. Dan, of course, totus to us, and especially to all dear members of the Legion of Mary Active and Auxiliary on today's wonderful day, the centenary date of the founding. Mr. Frog is back, of the founding of the Legion of Mary in 1921. So we indeed are all yours, our Queen, our Mother, all that we have is yours. The Eucharistic Congress has begun in Budapest in Hungary. Beautiful city, was there a number of years ago. Went to Esztergom and then went to Budapest afterwards then for a little tourist run around with Radio Maria Hungary. And without Radio Maria Hungary head, neck and heels, certainly involved in the Eucharistic Congress. We hope to touch in with them and share with you some of the news from there. But deep faith there, going way back. St. Stephen, a wonderful king and witness, a Catholic king, and a great witness to the faith there. There's a great revival and renewal of faith and family going on at the moment in Hungary. They've adopted wonderful new state policies in support of family and mothers having children, with tax breaks and all kinds of relief financially to help rebuild really their country, decimated by years of communist oppression and policies that were, antithetical to life and family. And with that is a great revival of faith going on too. Some lovely videos. Ulrika sent one or two lovely videos there on CathNet, as she found them, of the children gathering there for the Eucharistic Congress in Budapest. And it is, of course, a beautiful double city, Buda and Pest, either side of the river Danube, and a great place to visit if it's one that you haven't yet been to. But of course the Eucharist, the Holy Eucharist, is an instrument of communion and growing in unity. We had Vatican News yesterday. There it is again. Vatican News yesterday. Some Lutherans who were delighted to be attending the Eucharistic Congress for the communion in Christ that was showing them. So who knows what conversions to faith may well take place there. So it was delayed from last year on account of the pandemic, but all those who are attending are assured of an exciting program of events spread over 20 locations throughout the city of Budapest. Our own Bishop Kevin Doran is leading an Irish party attending there. And of course he would certainly bring with him the experience of the 2012 Eucharistic Congress. It's every 4 years, normally held, I understand. So it was due last year. The highlight of the Congress will be the closing Mass, of course, presided over by Pope Francis in Budapest Heroes Square. But each day participants immerse themselves in prayer, meetings, in Chatechesis, testimonies, seminars, and Holy Masses, of course, celebrated, and cultural events too. So the Congress will include guest speakers. Cardinal Louis Raphael Sacco from Iraq will be speaking today, as will Bishop Gerald Cyprien Lacroix of Quebec in Canada. And we heard a couple of little snips from him yesterday on the Vatican News too. So we'll bring you some of that as well there from Budapest. So it's a very important event. It deals with all aspects of life, moments of prayer, reflection, and especially meeting with others. The idea of, as we had when the celebration was here in Ireland, communion with the Lord, but also communion with one another. And this meant that not only in faith in the real presence of Christ, but bringing us together in fellowship and in sharing our life and faith and journey of faith together. So that's an integral part, of course, of it. So Cardinal Lacroix was saying that La Croix, meaning the cross, isn't it, La Croix, has participated in many Eucharistic Congresses over the years, and he remembers with great fondness the first time he participated when he was just 18 years old. And no doubt his vocation, indeed, probably stimulated by that too. He recalls that his father and mother decided the family would all go to the Congress in Philadelphia in 1976, where they were living at the time. I'm the oldest of 7 children, and we all went with my parents in a little tent to spend the week in Philadelphia. And that was my first experience, and it was overwhelming to pray with thousands of people and live all of these liturgies and cultural events and meeting people from all over the world. The Cardinal says he hopes to continue participating in international Eucharistic congresses for many years to come, because it is a place where we come to the source. So the Holy Eucharist, described by St. Thomas Aquinas and in the Catechism for us, the source and the summit of salvation, where we come to the Lord as humanity, as church, and allow him to renew us, give us more strength so we can continue living in the midst of this very troubled world and find hope. I come because I need this personally, but I also come to share this joy with others. So now looking forward to that this celebration in the coming days. Of course, Pope Francis then coming to Budapest then to preside over the closing Mass as well. And it'll be a lovely moment indeed for that Eastern European country. So very much looking forward to that as well. Now, it's only a frog in my throat. It's not an ongoing problem. It's just because the time of the morning, I think, and the time of having to speak a lot is what makes that frog. So no need to be sending me any medical cures. People are very good. They're all worried about my voice. No worries. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little excerpt and comment on it from the Legion of Mary handbook. This, as I say, is an international treasure in the Church and ranks, in my mind, with many of the other spiritual classics that have ever been written. It's been translated into well over 100 languages because millions of legionaries are using this, and arguably, again, is one of the most read books after the Bible, because there are millions reading this Legion of Mary handbook every week. Millions of people reading it. Because they're in the Legion of Mary. Every week we just take a little piece from the handbook. So I'm going to do that with you now. And it's a page worth there on page 49 called The Eucharist, Our Treasure. Now, Frank Duff, just an extraordinary writer, extraordinary insight, and simple in many ways, but very penetrating insight that he has. So here's what he, again, encourages members of the Legion of Mary to be aware of. It's a chapter 8 of the handbook, entitled The Legionary and the Eucharist. And it starts off with a section on Holy Mass, the Liturgy of the Word, the Liturgy of the Eucharist in union with Mary, and this lovely paragraph here called The Eucharist, Our Treasure. And he starts where we left off here from the Eucharistic Congress, saying the Eucharist is the centre and source of grace. That Jesus is at the heart of everything, in other words. That if you remove Christ from the world, we're nothing. There's nothing left. Where do we turn? To whom shall we go? They're the words of St. Peter. This is our Catholic faith. The Holy Eucharist is the centre and the source of grace. Eat my flesh, drink my blood, you will have eternal life. Therefore, it must be the very keystone of the legionary scheme. So for anybody who might think the Legion of Mary, again, is Holy Mary is run by Holy Joes, and it's all about this kind of exaggerated piety and devotion to Our Lady, they have no idea what the Legion is about at all. Rather, it Frank Duff draws us to the keystone of the legionary scheme, that is Christ in the Holy Eucharist. He says, the most ardent activity will accomplish nothing of value if it forgets for a moment that its main object is to establish the reign of the Eucharist in all hearts. Again, a missionary mandate, what do they call that? A kind of a mission statement as well for the Legion, to establish the reign of the Eucharist in all hearts. For thereby is fulfilled the purpose for which Jesus came into the world. Again, the idea of communion, a communion of persons, a holy communion in Christ with one another. This is why Christ came. That purpose was to communicate himself to souls so that he might make them one with him. This is what we long for, this communion with the other, with love, the beloved. And that's with God. It's a heart-shaped whole. Human companionship can only go so far. It's the divine communion into which human companionship takes its rightful place. The means of that communication is chiefly the Holy Eucharist. It's that simple, and yet that profound, and yet that clear. And he quotes John chapter 6, "Whoever eats of this bread will live forever, and the bread that I will give for the life of the world is my flesh." So it's unequivocal when you hear me preaching and teaching and just being firm on the real presence of Jesus in the Holy Eucharist. This is it. I would have learned this, maybe the nuts and bolts like this, from the Legion of Mary formation that I received over the years as a member, ever before I became a priest. Frank Duff goes on then. "The Eucharist is the infinite good, for in that sacrament is Jesus himself, as much present as he was in his home at Nazareth or in the upper room at Jerusalem. The Holy Eucharist is no mere symbol of him or instrument of his power, but is Jesus Christ himself substantially." So the substance, it is the essence, it is Christ. It's not holy bread. It's not blessed bread. It's not just consecrated bread. It is that, but it's Jesus Christ really, substantially, truly present. So that she, who had conceived him and nurtured him, found again in the adorable host the blessed fruit of her womb, and renewed in her life of union with his sacramental presence the happy days of Bethlehem and Nazareth. It's from St. Peter Julian Eamonn, a man who was quoted at length, actually, if you remember, for the consecration of St. Joseph. So Our Lady then, in the early church, in receiving Jesus in Holy Communion from the hands of St. John, no doubt, renewing again that happy life of her divine Son, that communion with her divine Son. Many who think Jesus little better than an inspired man are found to yield him reverence and imitation. If they thought him to be more, they would render him more. What therefore should proceed from the household of the faith? How inexcusable are those Catholics who believe but do not practice that belief, that Jesus, whom others admire, Catholics possess, ever living in the Eucharist. They have free access to him and can and should receive him even daily as the food of their souls. So these are logical consequences and conclusions of the simple argument. Christ is really present, substantially, really and truly present in the Holy Eucharist. And there are those who admire and respect and follow Jesus in their own respective way. And Frank says, well, what more then of those who, Catholics, who believe in Christ, in his real presence? Look at this, the time, where did that time suddenly disappear to? I have a half a section to go. What I'll do, I'll finish it tomorrow. I'll keep going because the Eucharistic Congress continues tomorrow as well. I'll finish off that. So there's the interesting, look at what we've received. How much more should we be fervent in that faith and in giving and sharing it with others? Now, God bless you. Time is up here for me. We'll pause now for Angelus and midday prayer.